Still nervous. My piece is called Jump, and it's a story about when I skydived. And I wrote it a while back, but I decided to enter it, and I hope you like it. Ever since I can remember, I've had a fascination with skydiving. And even though jumping from a perfectly good plane seemed like an act of pure insanity, I couldn't help but get a twinkle in my eye when I thought about it. A few close friends knew of my daring desire, but it wasn't something I usually talked about. That is, until, as my life often affords, opportunity literally moved in next door. His name was Zach, and he was taking classes at my college while training to be a paratrooper in the Army. Of course, I didn't notice at first, but since I'm a sucker for a cute boy in a uniform, I decided to strike up a conversation with him. While I don't remember that exact conversation, it was the beginning of a wonderful friendship. In no time at all, Zach was coming over to borrow toilet paper and share stories of his weekend retreats. One weekend, he came home limping, and when I asked him about it, he said he had landed a jump wrong. A jump? I asked with twinkling eyes. Seeing my interest, he proceeded to tell me about his jumping adventures. I knew I'd found a kindred spirit, so I shared with him my enthusiasm for the sport. He didn't laugh or tell me it was absurd, but instead encouraged me to do it and assured me it was very safe. Zach is that kind of friend. He makes the improbable seem possible. A few months before college graduation, Zach approached me and asked, "Got any plans this weekend?" "No," I replied. "Well, you do now," he said with a smirk. I knew this smirk all too well, so it was obvious he had something up his sleeve. I asked him what he meant, and he proceeded to explain that he and a few friends were going skydiving that weekend, and he wanted me to tag along. He said I didn't have to make up my mind yet, but I had to consider it. "Are you kidding me?" I exclaimed. "Of course I'm going to do this." Zach just smiled. I figured you'd say that. Zach and our friend Joe picked me up on Saturday afternoon. Our jump wasn't until 2, but we decided to get there early for orientation. I had a few questions to ask. It had been misty all morning long, but as soon as we headed out to the van, the sun poked its head out. It had become a beautiful spring day. And as we headed out of town, Tom Petty's song "Free Fallin'" came on the radio. I was filled with this sense of awe driving to the jump site, with the windows rolled down and singing at the top of my lungs. When we got there, Zach went inside to find somebody to come out and talk to me. A few minutes later, the owner came out, and close behind him was a guy named Eric. He would be the guy I would jump with. For the next 20 minutes, they explained the technique called tandem jumping. They would attach me to Eric with a harness, and I'd basically go along for the ride. When it was time to land, all Eric would do was pick up our legs and slide into the circle pit of pea gravel on his bottom. There would also be a couple of guys out there to slow us down in case we were coming in too fast. This was all the information I need. I forked over the money and signed my life away on the dotted line. All of the formalities were done. A lady came out with the harness. It wasn't the most comfortable arrangement, but it was only a few minutes till jump time. As the plane pulled up, Eric came out, and we went over any last-minute concerns. I was pretty confident about things and too excited to really think at this point. So I said, "All right, let's head to the plane." It was all starting to seem surreal at this point. I couldn't believe one of my life dreams was about to come true, all because of the love of a friend. Before I knew it, they had lifted me onto the plane and set me on the floor right beside the door. Soon the plane was full, so the engine started and the plane took off. I remember seeing the earth leave me, thinking, "Here goes everything." It took about 8 minutes to ascend the 12,000 feet. As we were approaching 10,000 feet, it was time to get into position. They slowly opened the door next to me, and the sound was deafening out there. By the time Eric scooted us to the edge of the plane, my heart was nearly beating out of my chest. The sky was the brightest blue I had ever seen, and the earth below looked like a beautiful patchwork quilt. All of a sudden, I hear Eric yell, "Ready? 1, 2, jump!" And we tumbled out of the plane. I must admit at first my reaction was panic. It goes against every natural instinct you have to leap into thin air. That initial feeling only lasted a second or two, and then my other senses were on sensory overload. The wind enveloped my body, and I could literally feel it infusing every pore. My cheeks were flapping in their own rhythmic dance, while my teeth chattered in pure exhilaration. I could see the earth getting closer and closer, but it seemed as if it was moving in slow motion. I had the perspective of a bird and felt the insignificance of an ant. On one hand, the full minute of free fall seemed to last forever. On the other hand, it ended way too quickly. With the pull of a chute and a jolt that catches you off guard, the free fall came to an end. We were still pretty high, but the rest of the ride was a tranquil one. We generally floated our way back to Earth, and I soaked in all the beauty I could. I wish I could have hit the record button in my mind. At that moment, I felt more alive than I had ever felt. I was humbled by the sheer brilliance of Mother Nature, but at the same time, the enormity of what I had just accomplished was beginning to set in. All my life, I had been proving to people that their doubts in me have no merit, and now I had just proved it to my biggest critic, myself. I realized I could do anything I put my mind to, despite my disability, or perhaps because of my disability. I confirmed what I already knew. This world is full of possibilities, and we should never let one slip from our grasp. My perspective had changed in an instant. I have never walked, but that day I learned to fly. Eric regained my attention
your offer's ready at the fly counter, William.
When he said we were coming into the landing. And just like that, we slid on top of a cushion of air. The next few minutes were a bit fuzzy. Once they got me back in my chair, I saw Zach heading towards me. He bent down and gave me a hug. "What do you think?" he asked. All I could manage was thank you.